Back on the road, back on the road, and back on the road, back on the road. City Cycle.
Hi folks, so thank you for stopping by. If you would like to learn how to build a camper van like this yourself, then please check out my other YouTube videos. So if you guys have found these videos helpful, you can help me out in a big way by picking up a copy of my first ever album that my brother and I recorded in Nashville late last year. Any proceeds will go to future recording projects, as well as taking the band on tour and hopefully promoting it. I'll leave a link in the description and talk a little bit more about it at the end of this video. Okay, just quickly then I'm going to show you how to install one of these roof lights. This is the micro version. You can get a bigger one of these. This is just going to help give us a little bit of ventilation, especially when we're cooking. It's going to allow that moisture to disappear somewhere else. It also comes with a frame like this, so you've got a blind and a fly net. So basically what will happen is we'll cut a hole. This is 28 by 28 centimeters on this particular one. The other one I did, it was 40 by 40, and that will simply slot into the hole up to here. We will use some Sikaflex all around this edge here to bond it into place, and this side will also meet from the inside of the camper van to these slots. Okay, you can also screw it down as well. So you've got some really good instructions here. It's really clear. It's a very straightforward thing to do, so don't worry about doing this if it's your first time. Just follow all the instructions, but I'll hopefully give you a bit of an idea of how to do it as well as we go. So first up, if you haven't done so already, you want to figure out where you're going to position your roof light slash vent. I'm going to put mine just up here because it's going to allow any moisture that comes off the hobs when they're in place to go straight out of that vent. So it's going to be right above all of our steam. You're going to want to make sure that there's obviously no wires that's going to be in the way as you're cutting out the hole through the roof. And you don't want to be cutting through any structural battens that are supporting the vehicle as well. So just a couple of things to consider. Once you know where it is, you can then go ahead, start cleaning it, marking it all. We will need to give this a really good clean later to help the Sikaflex bond. But now we can go ahead and we can put our measurements in. One thing you want to consider when you're installing your roof light as well is you want to ideally put it on a nice flat part of your roof. I have a very slight curve here on mine, but the Sikaflex will still be able to seal that, so it's not too much of a problem. But one of the most common things you'll come across is a roof with ridges all across it, which is quite annoying. Now one thing you can do is you could get some like the window PVC plastic, and you could fill in those ridges and use Sikaflex to put that in place, and then you'll get a nice flat area to adhere to. So your PVC plastic pieces will have to go all around the outline of where the roof light will meet the roof itself, so it will go in like a square. If you do need to buy some of that window PVC plastic, then measure the depth of those ridges using a tape measure or a ruler. Buy it to that depth, and you want it to be fairly wide obviously, so there's plenty of contact for the roof light, and then you can cut it to size using a saw. I'm going to now measure out where I'm going to put the roof light exactly. Taking this ruler, go up to this ridge here, just mark out where 21 centimeters is. This is just so I can get a really nice central finish. I'll do the same on the other side. What I've done is I've actually gone to the back here and I've marked out 8 centimeters in a few different spaces from the boot here. So that should hopefully give me a nice clear line. We've marked out 21 centimeters there and 21 centimeters there, so we're now right in the middle of the roof. And now I can go ahead and draw this straight line. And then you could go and get a square edge and you could do the rest of those. Do is just line up the square edge first. Draw the first part of the line. Okay, and then you can go ahead, draw 28 centimeters across there. Same again, till you've got your square, and then we can just check that we have marked it all out correctly afterwards. So in theory this one should be 28 centimetres. It's okay if you're like a few millimetres out, but you don't want to be like centimetres and centimetres out. So check that all the sides are the right measurements. So just follow the measurements that they've given you. Check that they are all 28 centimetres, because once you make this cut, there's no going back. So we've got our line now, we can go ahead and actually start making the cut. So next up then, we want to drill holes into each of the 4 corners. Okay. Now they recommend using a 24mm wide hole saw piece like this one. So what that will do using that hole saw piece, it will give you a nice curve that will match the curve on the roof light there if you use that 24mm drill bit. So what you need to do to make sure you're putting your drill bit into the right place is you need to halve the diameter of your hole saw piece. So 24mm, half of that is 12mm, and then you need to mark that out on here, and same on this angle as well. So what that's done is that's giving us an accurate direction for us to place our drill bit. So once that pilot part of the drill bit goes through, the rest will hopefully meet the sides. So I'll go ahead and show you this one. It's good to wear some glasses for these. I'm on a step ladder, by the way, for this, but if you can climb onto the roof, it will make it easier, but the roof on here isn't very strong, so I'm not going to do that. So make sure you get your drill bit on nice and accurately, then you can go ahead and start. Oh. Unfortunately, as you can probably see, I'm having some issues here with my drill bits. They're all wonky at the moment, so when I put this in, my hole saw piece is moving around and around and around, and it's not going to create an accurate cut. If you don't have any problems, this drill bit on the end here will be used as a guide for your hole saw piece to cut nicely up against the sides of your lines that you've marked out here. So then just go around each side and do this on each corner and cut it all out with a hole saw piece. One thing I've just done is I've drilled a pilot hole through the roof here for our roof light. I've left the drill in place, and hopefully you can see it coming through just there. Looking at it now, and I've just measured it out back to here, it's a lot closer to this area than I'd like it to be. So I'm going to move the whole thing further down this way, so I'm actually going to move all those measurements that I've just made, and I'm going to move them a little further back just to allow a little bit of extra space and make it look more even against each of these fixings. So once you've got your holes, if you've already started your build, you're going to want to protect it, because that piece of metal is going to drop out off the roof and all the debris is going to go everywhere. So I've put a tarp down inside. Obviously you don't have to worry about that if you haven't started your build yet and you're doing this first, which is right. So another tip, as you can see on my jigsaw, I've just taped off this side here that's going to be going around the part of the roof that will be left, just so that we don't scratch it. Or you could of course put tape just around your square. So we're going to take it really slow with the jigsaw. It's quite a frightening experience, this bit. Take it real steady, place it in your first hole, and then if you use the hole saw pieces, then you should be able to just literally cut straight lines. So you want to make sure you've got the right jigsaw blade, one that's designed to cut through metal and designed to cut through the thickness of your roof. So you can now just go ahead, follow your outlines and make the cut. So at this point you would get to your hole saw cut out, and so you just basically be cutting that straight line. Because I can't use my hole saw pieces, I'm going to cut the curve with the jigsaw itself. it's still in place because the wooden board is still there, so I'm going to go around that bit in just a sec. We could lift this out. So you can go around these corners now and just tidy them up with the jigsaw and this edge here where they meet. Okay, unfortunately, as you can see, my blade wasn't long enough on my jigsaw to reach all the way down to that last bit of insulation and the wood that I have. So what I'm going to do, in the same scenario, what I have done, is I've drilled some pilot holes using the sides of the cutout as a guide. I've put a couple around each corner, and then I've joined them all up and checked the measurements, and now I can go ahead with the jigsaw and do this internally as well. Alright, so once you finish cutting your hole, you can put your roof light in just to check that it definitely does fit. If it doesn't, you can go back around it and just open up those edges a little bit more with the jigsaw. And then next we want to take a file that's designed to file down metal, and we can just go around the edges here, and we're just going to file them down to make them nice and smooth to the touch. So go around all edges and do this. Once you finish filing it all, what you want to do is get some red oxide, use this stuff before, around our windows, and make sure the surface is nice and clean, and then just take a little paintbrush to this and paint it around these raw edges to stop them rusting, okay? So you might want to also leave that tarpaulin in place just to catch any red oxide that drips down onto the floor. So just go around all your edges now and cover this in the red oxide and then leave it to dry. Okay, so when it comes to actually installing the roof light, there's going to be some screws which are going to screw into the ceiling of your van. I'm just going to point something out, that when I do that with this one, it's going to bow the ceiling and we're not going to get good contact. So what you might need to do is fill it like I have done this side, and now that's going to give a nice solid base for us to screw onto. What you can do is cut 4 pieces that will fit inside here nicely, and we're going to cut those to 28 centimeters each as well, the same as the hole. I'm just going to take our good friend Gorilla Wood Glue here and just wax them over both sides of this workpiece, and then I'm going to squeeze it into place. I already know that this one's going to be the hardest one to install out of the lot, so I'm putting this in just to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. And you want to push that all the way back so it's flush, otherwise it's going to, if it's sticking out, it's going to get in the way of you installing that roof light. I'm just going to take away that excess glue as well. I think that's pretty sturdy there. Okay, we're going to go around all 4 edges and add our little spacer bits in. Okay, so go ahead and remove your clamps. Hopefully that's all dried off now. We've left that overnight to do so, and now we're going to go ahead and install the roof light. So first things first then, we just want to go ahead and clean around the opening of our hole here. So get rid of any debris. So our sealant's going to be sitting on top of it, and to get a good seal, you've got to make sure that it's all clean. You're using a damp cloth, make sure that you've allowed it to dry before you go ahead and install. You want to get a container and fill it with some water and some fairy liquid or some washing up liquid. This is going to help us smooth out our sealant. So at this point, if you have a ridged roof, you need to go ahead and get some of the window PVC gear and just put it in between those ridges and make sure you have a nice flat surface. So you might have to measure the depth between each ridge and then buy the necessary PVC to that depth. Okay, so use the Sikaflex to go and hold that into place, let that dry, and then we can come back and apply the roof light on top of that nice flat. To cut your PVC to the desired width, you can just use a simple tenon saw like this. Okay, we need to go ahead and apply some sealant to our roof light, and for this we're going to need a sealant that is non-setting and is also UV resistant. So we're going for some Sikaflex 521. The reason we want a non-setting one is we need that elasticity to deal with the vibrations. If it's a really hard setting sealant, then it's going to crack over time, and the UV resistant because of course this is going to be taking some punishment from the sun as it's sat on the top. I'm going for the Sikaflex 521 as I say, but have a look when you're buying any sealant online and just check through the details to make sure you have those two things. So if you're opening the tube up for the first time, you just need to pop a screwdriver into the head of your sealant there, and you can also cut a little bit of an angle on your nozzle to help you apply it. So with your sealant and your sealant gun, we're going to go ahead and apply a good healthy bead of it into this channel all around the edge of our roof light. You don't want any leaks coming through, so make sure you apply this pretty liberally. I'd say be very careful with the sealant as well. It is really tacky, and as soon as it sticks to something it's quite hard to remove, like your clothes or your fingers or any part of your van. So just make sure you give it a good clean off before you carry on working. So as you can see, it's a pretty consistent bead all around. You want to make sure that there's no gaps for any water to penetrate through. So you don't want to waste too much time doing this bit because your sealant will set. So you need to make sure that your roof light is facing the correct way. So just want it facing the direction of travel. I can see here that we have a slight issue with the curve of the roof, so that's why I'm going to go ahead and apply some more sealant in just a little while, just to fill those gaps. But pop it into place and let it sit there. I think you have to wait about 10 minutes before you actually then really pull those screws down on the underside to pull it. So you can probably see there the gap that I have, which has been caused by the curvature of the van. So we will go around that later and put a bit more sealant on it just to make sure that it's nice and weather tight. So if the thickness of your roof is more than 43 millimeters, you'll need to buy this little extension piece. So this will just slot up here, and then the screws will be longer and they will go into place right up through there onto there and connect the two up. If yours is less than that, you will skip this part, but you will be doing this bit next, which is applying these little brackets. So what they'll do is they'll sit on here like so, and they'll grip onto the roof, and then you'll put a screw through there and it'll go up through our little extension piece and right up into the threads of the roof light itself. So we'll go ahead and do those. So like I said, take your little mounting brackets. We'll go this way. That we can put the screw in by hand. Okay, I'm going to use a screwdriver for this because these are plastic threads. I don't want to ruin those by going full force with a drill. You just go around your whole entire frame and follow these through. There's about 8 of them there. So as you can see, we've got all 8 in. That was quite hard work actually. Those threads were really hard to feed into. But now that's done, we can go ahead and do the final bit, which is just putting the frame around the bottom here. As you can see, those screws have really helped pull the roof light right down onto the van, so it's kind of fitting to the curvature now, and the sealant has made a nice good seal, but I'm still going to go around anyway with a little bit more Sikaflex just to be sure. So what you're going to do is you've got these little brackets here, and they're all going to slot into place on top of there. So you should have a couple on each side. So just go around all of these and just apply them onto these edges. And when you've done that, we can go ahead and pop it in place. So in theory then, this should simply slot into place. So there should be some corresponding slots to these parts here where we've placed our little brackets on. And it should just go right into joint. So I'm going to get in and wrestle this thing in. Obviously as well, when you're doing this, make sure you put it in the way round you want it as well. So if you wanted it to go sideways, you could put it in around the other way. It doesn't matter because it's all the same. There we go. Look at that, ventilation. Right, now it's time for one of my least favourite jobs, and that is putting some sealant around the roof light. It doesn't say to do this in the installation instructions, but I like to do it just to really make sure that it's nice and weatherproof, because I have had problems in the past before when I've done one of these. So I'm going to just apply a bead all the way around the edge here, and then we'll go out around, smooth it out in a little bit. So as you can see, I've also masked it all off. So like I said, this stuff is really hard to work with. It's really tacky. So make sure you have plenty of kitchen roll or something to wipe your hands on, because you will no doubt get some on there. And you're going to want to use some very soapy liquid as well to help you as you run your finger across it. Then I will run it across the edge and just force down, okay? But yeah, don't forget to wipe away any of that excess. If you get it anywhere, it's really important you try and get it off. So I'm going to smooth it out to the best I can. A little bit has come over the top here, so I'm going to take away most of that excess, and if there is like a really small film of it left on the top, we can come back and just take that off later. Hopefully you can see that. Just wet my finger loads and then I can get it in. And making sure my finger is really wet when I'm doing this. Just as a little tip then, if you were struggling like me to get right into these corners here, I found that by opening this fully and then inserting the sealant through here, I was able to seal that area. So one of the top tips I would give you then is to really make sure you've got tons of soapy water on your fingers, because this stuff is really dry and tacky. And as soon as you do get some on your fingers or on your hands anywhere, just make sure you get it straight off so that you don't accidentally put it anywhere else on the van. I'm now going to take off this masking tape. Remove this before it gets too tacky, otherwise it will just cling to your tape. So just go around, make sure you haven't left any excess on any part of the actual roof light itself, and yeah, then you should be done.
It goes closer when you zoom. Press record. Okay, go.
So thanks for stopping by, everybody. If you'd like to, please like and subscribe and check out our other content. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Please like and subscribe and check out our other content on all things camper. As I mentioned before, I've just recorded my first album. Will need all the help I can get. So I'll leave you with an album preview for now and a link in the description if you'd like to pick up a copy.
She does all that she can. Yes, anymore. Time, I'm heading west, yeah, till I cross the line. $6 short, but my soul is clean. I need one more dime. The fruit machine swirling waves on me. Yeah. You put their cold and harsh demeanor, it'll soon come back around. So don't let the bastards get you down.